The key for anybody contemplating the sale of an easement to an entity for purposes of a wind power generation or solar power generation is that the easement for access and perhaps an easement to place pads or other infrastructure on the property has to be a perpetual easement in order for it to be treated, the sale of that asset to be treated as like kind to other fee ownership in real property. And generally speaking, the taxpayer and their advisors have to pay close attention to the terms and provisions of that easement agreement. There's another way of accomplishing the same thing, and that would be the sale of a lease to the energy generating facility or company. And that leasehold interest, typically, in order for it to be treated as like kind to other real property interests to be acquired as replacement property, that interest that's being sold needs to be a long-term leasehold interest. And typically that's how those leases are set up. They may have an initial term of 10 years or some exploratory term that gives the company the ability to see if the erection of wind power generation facilities or solar power generation infrastructure is feasible. And then there are automatic extensions of that leasehold interest, to take it out past 30 years. If that's the case, and typically those are set up that way, that's going to allow for the taxpayer to take the proceeds from the sale of that lease to acquire replacement real property as part of their 1031 exchange process. It's also important to note that leasehold interest, in order for it to be used through the 1031 exchange process, typically the taxpayer or the person selling that easement or long-term leasehold interest is only going to be able to use the upfront money paid for those leases or for those easements. So that's not as much a problem for an easement because typically those payments are upfront. The entire consideration for the sale of the easement is upfront. The long-term leasehold situation is a little bit different, however, because those payments are typically on an installment basis, on an annual or some other periodic installment basis that really doesn't fit well with the 1031 exchange process, other than the payments that are going to be received within the first 180 days of the sale of the leasehold interest. So that's something to be cognizant of, and we always encourage people when we're working with them from a Cruet standpoint to be able to review those documents and to be able to consult with their tax advisors to make sure that these types of easement sales are going to qualify for 1031 treatment.